Applause. Get the buoy in. Attempt to steer it with the pull. Signal, signal, keep it away from the edge. 1, 2, 3, 4. Call 911. It started out as one of those days that was meant to be nothing more than another breathtaking spectacle at SeaWorld Orlando. The sun shone bright in Florida, music thumped the speakers, families guffawed, cameras clicked, and under the bright, blinding lights and beautifully choreographed spectacles stood Dawn Brancheau, the most renowned orca trainer of the park. She was serene, unflappable, smiling, a woman at the peak of her art. By her side swam a behemoth, over 12,000 pounds of raw muscle, moving through the water like a specter. This was Tilikum, superstar, legend in life, top predator. What followed was not a trick, nor part of the orchestrated act. It was a raw, unscripted moment that blew the illusion once and for all. On February 24, 2010, as hundreds of spectators sat frozen in disbelief, Tilikum lunged without warning, dragging Dawn beneath the surface into a deadly, inescapable struggle. The encounter lasted only minutes, but the ripples of that day would extend for years to come. This is more than a story about a tragic death, it's about warnings ignored, trust betrayed, and a system built on entertainment that had finally reached its breaking point. Today on Animal Attack Archives, we'll reveal what truly happened behind the glass, beneath the surface, and why it still matters. If this kind of story touches your heart, if you're someone who cares about truth, responsibility, and speaking up for the voiceless, please like this video, subscribe to and share it with someone who should hear it. Let's get started. Years before she slipped into a wetsuit, before the applause, lights, and 6-ton whales, Dawn Brancheau was a child in Indiana, obsessed with the ocean she had seen only from a television screen. Other children watched cartoons, but Dawn wore out VHS tapes of dolphin documentaries. She didn't like dolls, she gobbled up books on marine life. She was able to recite every species of whale in the North Atlantic by the time she was 10 and imitate orca calls so convincingly that she practiced them before her bedroom mirror, much to the delight of her siblings down the hall. This wasn't fascination for Dawn, it was connection. Where everyone else saw animals, she saw feeling, where everybody else saw size and teeth, she saw brains and beauty. At 16, when her friends slaved away at shopping centers, Dawn spent her time working at an aquarium down the street. She cleaned algae out of tanks, mapped feeding cycles, and posed tough questions that even grizzled biologists had to stop to answer. Her enthusiasm wasn't boisterous or flashy, it was consistent, rock solid, impossibly in your face. She received a marine biology degree from the University of South Carolina, where she graduated with honors. But for Dawn, grades were never the objective, knowing was. She wanted to know these animals thoroughly, to communicate their language instead of barking commands. Upon graduation, SeaWorld beckoned. For most trainers, this was the ultimate, a dream come true. For Dawn, it was destiny. The woman who had softly whispered orca noises in her bedroom now faced the actual creature. Trainers could immediately tell how orcas reacted differently to her, how they leaned in, tracked her eyes, and even the most volatile among them were less volatile around her. Dawn's approach wasn't one of dominance, of one animal over another. It was one of respect. She listened, she conformed, and she never pushed beyond what felt correct. "They don't work for us," she once said. "We work together." That mantra guided her career, with her gaining respect from coworkers and the starring role in SeaWorld's highest-tiered orca performances. Guests remembered her name. New trainers emulated her techniques. But even as her fame increased, there were whispers behind closed doors, warnings regarding the very creatures she loved best. Warnings that one bond in specific, the bond she prized above all others, may not be so unbreakable as she thought. To the public, SeaWorld was magic. Where else would a child be able to stand mere feet from a killer whale? Where else did water ripple like crystal under the lights, whales breaching in perfect sync with thumping music? Families viewed it as a fantasy, a vacation memory packaged in splash zones and synchronized flips. For Dawn, it had been that dream once too. But she came to realize what most visitors did not. Each breathtaking leap was practiced through countless rehearsals. Each carefree splash was the sound of an animal held in steel tanks, surviving by rigid feeding quotas. The park spanned more than 200 acres, steel tanks, artificial lagoons, arenas for performances. At its heart was Orca Stadium, also known as Shamu Stadium, named after a whale no longer present but remembered as a trademark. Shows awed with accuracy. Music blared, trainers grinned, whales breached on demand. But behind the scenes, things were not so rosy. Trainers murmured of injuries, several never publicized. Internal incident reports documented near misses, unexpected violence, and unnerving periods of quiet before a show. But the audience remained full, so the performance continued. And then Tilikum, the biggest orca ever held, 22 feet long, over 12,000 pounds. Caught off Iceland as a calf, sent across seas, transferred from park to park, always playing, always observed. But his past was burdensome. In 1991, trainer Kelty Byrne drowned when she fell into the pool alongside Tilikum and two other whales. In 1999, a man was discovered dead, lying across Tilikum's back after breaking into the park during the night. 2 fatalities, 1 whale. But he was still a star, too well known, too priceless to retire. His picture sold tickets. His leaps filled stadiums. And, most perilously of all, Dawn trusted him, or used to. In spite of his size, his history, and his volatile temperament, Tilikum continued to be part of the SeaWorld roster, not because he was safe, but because he was lucrative. Dawn was aware of the risks. She'd read the accident reports, noted the old scars on his hide, and sensed the low-key tension move through the team when he paused before responding to a command. But she believed in him. She believed in the work. She trusted in the fine line between trust and danger. Nobody knew that this line was starting to shift, not Dawn, not her colleagues, not the guests smiling in the stands. And below the glassy face of the water, something darker was already building. Dawn was different among the trainers. Her power was not in intimidation, but in trust she earned from both humans and whales. Her relationship with the orcas had not been one of dominance, it had been one of time, patience, and a language of unspoken commands. With Tilikum, her connection went particularly deep. Oversized and scarred from decades of confinement, he appeared almost gentle when she was around. He moved to her hand signals with fluid motion, tolerated her touch without flinching, and broke surface near when she spoke his name. Other trainers envied or even admired that bond. To the audience, it seemed near magic, a woman and a predator flowing as one. But magic can break. Tilikum's size itself made him a hazard. Due to his bloody past, he was forbidden to participate in water work, the routines including trainers in the pool. Nevertheless, he was still a focal point in the stadium's dry stage shows. Dawn had been with him for years, reading his moods, storing up his rhythms, or at least she believed that. During the weeks leading up to that February day, something shifted. Tilikum began to log, remaining still at the surface for long periods of time, his eyes hardly blinking. Trainers recognized this tactic as possibly being associated with boredom or psych stress. He started to ignore cues more and more. His jaw popping, a voice in Orca language that may indicate irritation, dominance, or warning, grew louder. Some of the staff expressed discreet reservations, but there had been strange behaviors previously, and nothing had materialized. The signs of warning were documented and then, as ever, put aside. Dawn relied upon the familiarity of their relationship. She trusted that consistent reinforcement, meticulous communication, and mutual understanding could keep them in harmony. This wasn't naivety, it was belief, born of years of experience. She believed she could feel when danger was approaching. But animals don't always warn when they reach their limit. Behind Tilikum's black, unblinking eyes was a lifetime of captivity, of trauma, of enforced performance. The connection was authentic, but it existed on a knife's edge. And the knife was beginning to unravel. The morning of February 24, 2010, dawned like any other. The sun in Florida rose over the park, the air warm and bright. Within SeaWorld, trainers took the temperature of the water, readied buckets of fish, and practiced commands for the day's main attraction, the Dine with Shamu show. Dawn came early, as she always did. She went over her list, worked through the familiar backstage hallways, and made a quick visit to the whales. She lingered at Tilikum's tank for a moment, observing him moving in slow, measured circles. There was something tranquil about him, still, inscrutable, but nothing that shook her. This was the work she'd trained all her life for. Whatever was brewing beneath the surface, she felt confident that she could handle it. She always had. At 2 p.m., the gates of the stadium opened. Guests poured in, kids poking heads up against glass, parents gesturing excitedly. Waitstaff navigated between tables bearing trays of food while softly playing music wafted across the arena. Then the music changed, the performance was now underway. Dawn climbed onto the stage, zipped-up wetsuit, secure headset, grinning as she waved to the audience. Down below, Tilikum broke elegantly, creating a spray over the front seats. Laughter undulated in the crowd. But observers along the side saw subtle variations. His platform slide slowed, his tail slap was more incisive, and he disregarded one of Dawn's signals. Small gestures, but with an animal as sensitive as Tilikum, small things might be critical. The performance continued. Dawn remained measured in her movements, her signals clear, her body motion consistent. Next was the last routine, close proximity at the pool edge. She knelt just over a submerged platform, inclining forward to initiate a side swim. And then, in a split second, the magic was broken. Suddenly, without warning, Tilikum burst up, his jaws snapping Dawn away. Witnesses would describe the instant as sudden, violent, and utterly wrong. One heartbeat she was there, grinning, stable, and in the next, she was gone, ripped into the water with appalling violence. Some gasped in the crowd. Others applauded, thinking this was something in the act. But it wasn't. On the pool deck, there was pandemonium. Trainers blew their whistles, rushed for equipment, and turned on underwater noise-making devices meant to distract the whale. None succeeded. Tilikum plunged deep, taking Dawn down with him. What happened took minutes, but seemed to take an eternity. Children screamed. Parents froze. The music ceased. The water churned fiercely, its spray stained with red. The instant Dawn disappeared under the water, the whole arena transformed, from happiness to terror.